Alright, so it's been a little while since I made one of these videos, but we're going to talk about characters in this one. If you take a look at the regular Ghost Recon characters, they're really nothing too crazy at all. They're very basic. You can see the vest area here. Some of the attachments for the vest are just more or less just a cube for the most part, right? Nothing crazy. This guy, even more simple. The segments around the leg here, it's an 8-sided cylinder basically. And you might have to do a little fancy work for the kneecaps, maybe a little bit for the footwork down here. But generally speaking, if you make a character all out of quads and you keep it really, really simple like this and just only focus on having the extra geometry where you need to bend the elbows and things like that, you can take a look at these reference characters on ghostrecon.net, download them, and then take a look at how they're made. These were cleaned up, of course. They were triangulated when I brought them in, but I went ahead and untriangulated them as much as I could, or a little bit anyways. And yeah, they're really simple. So we're gonna go ahead and go to a new scene real quick. I'm gonna delete the default cube. There's a add-on for Blender called Import Images as Planes, or you can go ahead and enable that. It comes with Blender, so go to Edit Preferences, Add-ons, Import Images as Planes, and then you can do Import Image as Plane, or you can actually press Shift A and do image as planes as well. Okay, and so I got a couple photos here. I'm gonna load these up and import them real quick. You can see when they come in, you don't see nothing. Here's the trick: you got to change some of your shading settings. I'm using a matte cap right now, but usually you're on Studio, and use the unlit Studio and change it to texture. You'll see they pop in, right? Pretty simple. I'm also going to be using machine tools, which requires a little bit of setup if you want to play around with that. Most likely I'm going to be able to touch on some of that in this video. Not using it too heavily though, so I'm using Blender. You could use a new version of Max or Maya, whatever, but all of this is going to have to go to 3D Studio Max 5 if you want to set it up on the bones for Ghost Recon. There's a file that's somewhere on ghostrecon.net. I'll have to find it again, make sure to point you in the right direction for that, but you'll be able to take whatever you model and then actually put them onto the bones, and then do a little bit of weight painting for the vertex weights when you use the skin modifier, and then you'll be able to export that out from Max 5, all right? What I'm showing you in this video is we're going to be just more or less using these images as our starting point for creating a character. So the way this works out is we're going to model right off of these images, and they'll already pretty much be UV mapped. They'll look pretty decent, and then it takes a little bit of an extra step after you model these little segments. I'll talk about that a little bit more here in the future in this video, but we'll just get started. It's very simple. You can try to do the whole segment at once if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just going to do some basic cuts real quick to get this started. And I'm trying to line these up with one another, okay? As best as I can as far as topology goes. So this is kind of like an old VFX trick. It's probably how Ghost Recon was actually made as well, is where you're just doing this number to get started. Background, you don't need it, so you can get rid of it. So now we have a cutout of some pants. Cool, right? And this is where it gets fun, because now we can actually go through. We can say we want to cut here to here. Now I'm not real positive that any of this topology is going to be 100% correct, but I do know if you use mostly quads, it will deform a lot nicer. So when you try to animate this stuff later on, it'll make more sense. But go ahead and cut those. I'm going to join these for now. I just want to prove a point on how this works. I got to cut this one out and then add a segment here. Okay. Or press J, join these. Okay. Okay. And so there should only be 4 segments on this side, because it's 8-sided, remember? So that would be 2 cuts here, 2 cuts there. And more or less, you can grab those, pull them out. I don't know if this is the front or the back. What is this? Looks like it's the back. So we'll probably don't need to raise all of it out, but push and pull the polygons a little bit until you get the shapes you Probably need something like so. Maybe this edge on the outside would probably go further in like this, right? And then you would want to make this area look appropriate, not too crazy or anything, right? And the inside seams would probably come in. Think of like how you would design pants or something, right? Just gonna cut this out here like that for now. I would have to reference the original characters, I think. See kind of how they worked on the crotch area, but it's something similar to this. It's nothing real crazy. It's about halfway down. There we go. Now, if you move any of this, it's warping the texture. Just keep that in mind. If you press G twice, you can actually slide. Okay, and that's not going to warp it. But there's also up here under options, correct face attributes. You can tick this on, and you can move, and you'll see that it doesn't really mess it up as much, but it can cause problems. So I recommend using this sparingly and just knowing kind of when to turn it on and off. You'll have to play with it for a little while to figure it out. I right click on this and I assign this to a hotkey. So it's actually on my mouse. So I can turn it on when I need it and turn it back off when I need it, right? As I use it quite a bit, believe it or not. And so you can shape your section however you want. Now you'll notice the legs don't line up really. So you'd have to probably do a little bit of trickery here. Maybe do like a scale on Y. Maybe flatten it out a little bit. Scale on Y. And then kind of line things up, you know, get them looking about right. Eventually what you're going to end up doing is matching it to the other side. Okay. So you can twist and contort those quite a bit. You can see that's not too bad. Probably a little too thick though, huh? Probably something more like that. And figure out what exactly you need to do to get the correct shape. I'm gonna right click Shade It Smooth. All right. Same process here for the front. Go ahead and go through that whole modeling process again real quick. I'm gonna do it a little bit more at speed, I guess. So these are Equix pants. These are the cold weather kind of pants you'd probably wear in Russia, right? A lot of stuff going on in Russia right now, or near Russia. But the kind of cold weather gear the U.S. Army wears anyways. Something like this. I don't know exactly what brand this is, but so we can do that number. Oop, don't scale it by accident like I just did. Join these. Do another little section here, do a little cutout. Okay, now this section, kind of want to mimic it, right? So we need to do a cutout. This is probably not the right topology, like I said, so keep that in mind. Okay, we can get rid of the background, we don't need it. And we have more or less the same thing going on. Go all the way through this section, shape it, contort it, whatever the case. Pull down the sides a little bit. Just a real quick, easy, fun way to work, in my opinion. Something maybe a little bit more like that. You're going to have to get the portions right, which is probably going to be some of the hardest part to this anyways. I guess I'm doing a knife cut through here like that again. We'll pull all that in. Something like that. Okay, this is where Machine Tools comes in. It has a really useful feature, which is align. I can press Alt-A, align, bottom. You won't have that in Vanilla Blender, but really useful. So I can do that on this one as well. On bottom, there you go. I think I might have missed a segment in here. Let's see. Do an Alt and Shift to select like that, by the way. On bottom, okay, there we go. So now we have a couple pants. Now they're not perfectly straight or nothing like that right now. So it's going to be a little bit rough to match them. It really helps to kind of like have a reference of a character or have an actual character model kind of image or a character to kind of get these positioned a little bit more correctly. But I'm going to flip it 90 degrees or 180 degrees, sorry. We're going to go 180 degrees. I'm holding control, so it should snap. There we go. Boom. Now it's upside down. Just going to move it over. Like so. I did scale this one a little bit smaller, so I'll scale this one a little bit smaller. And now we're getting to the point where we can just kind of manually align them. I'll rotate these vertically so I can just work on them a little bit better. So, all right. Fun thing you can do here is actually, surprisingly, they match up pretty close. That's actually, I wasn't expecting that. Fun thing you can do is just grab them both, press Control J, go into edit mode. We're going to do vertices. We're going to snap to vertex. Okay, we're just going to do the default settings here, but you can modify those settings if you choose fit. We can do this number. We don't even have to really worry about UV mapping for the most part. As long as we created the segments relatively the same to one another, I think I'm going to make this one smaller. We should be more or less good for the most part. Whoops, wrong side. All right, this is just something you can do. There's other ways of modeling, of course. You don't have to do it in this manner. See, if we took a little bit more time matching everything, might have a little bit better of a result. And this is asymmetrical right now too. So it's a little challenging because the asymmetry is really pretty rough. I don't know which side is the front or the back. That probably makes a difference right here. Okay. Oh, you know what? Did I not do the... Oh, this piece. Yeah, you can see I messed that up bad in there. Okay. Let's do this piece to there. Okay, and then we'll pull this down, I think. Ooh, that's a big gap difference there. So I'm going to merge everything real quick by pressing A, M, merge by distance. Let's go ahead and pull that up a little bit. That's a little too dramatic in there. And I'm thinking if I press F, it might... Yeah, almost did right. Not quite, but... I didn't model them so they would meet up, apparently. Very close, though, right? Let's do a G. Let's try sliding. Well, it's not going to slide down. They're double vert there? No. So, I have to put in that and then slide it down, maybe. Merge it. Okay, I think that worked. There's a little seam here. So you might have to go back into your UV editing tools and figure out what's going on in this area. You can see it's a little bit misaligned, isn't it? So you also have snap to vertex in here as well. So you can quickly and easily go through this number. You can see it's way off. I'm just going to stretch the UVs, but that's not unheard of for the Ghost Recon characters at all. So yeah, you'll play around with this however you see fit, and then adjust things as it makes more sense. Because more than likely you're going to end up going through this process of doing this number, merging everything by distance. You'll probably try to line these up a little bit more. And it should take out some of the distortion in the original image right? From the uniform being bent or whatever. This one was laying down. Nobody was wearing it, so that should be a little bit nicer. Okay. And so the fun part is trying to figure out how to do all this. Got a couple options here. You can try to eyeball it all, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing because it creates a little bit of asymmetrical kind of shape to the character. But it might not line up on the bones quite right. So if you have the bones in Max 5, take a screenshot of them, just throw them in Blender, and then use that as a reference to line everything up. But the trick here is you could use like circle with loop tools. This is an add-on that comes with Blender. You just enable it. And so you could do something like loop tools. And that's going to probably straighten those up pretty well. Then you might have to, you could do like a SZ0 and then pull out the side panel here and then figure out where these are in relation to each other. So you use global, not local. And now you could say like this one needs to go here. This is on the x-axis, so copy that. This would be the same, but it would be negative, right? You can start to clean things up if you really, really wanted to. So this is just a interesting, cool way. We're not going to do the whole cleanup here. Interesting, cool way of making things match up and meet with each other. Now, here's the caveat. As fun as all this is, because now we have character pants, no problem, right? If we cleaned it up even more, we'd have a good-looking face of a character here anyways. The trick is that this is two different materials, right? So if I go to the material panel, you see it's two different materials. At a certain point, they're already UV mapped like this, right? But we're going to have to create an atlas at some point. So you have to go to UV maps, click the plus sign, this creates a duplicate of this UV map, but now this one's here. So eventually you'll do like a UV pack islands, and you can end up doing this number where you can arrange those UVs with the coat, the pants, the jacket, the flak jacket, whatever, and whatever else you might want to put on it. You can see this one is looking like so now, but this one's like this, right? All right, with that in mind, I went over in a previous video about how you can create texture atlases, which is cool, but there's an add-on called Simple Bake, right? And Simple Bake makes this process extremely easy to bake those UV maps to another UV map. So just keep that in mind. I'm not going to go over it in this one, but you do have to do the two UV maps and transfer the textures from the one image or the one material onto the second UV map and create a new texture image, right? So it's a little bit complicated, but overall, you know, you're not fighting with a whole lot of UV mapping for the most part. You're not fighting with creating the character. It's real simple doing it in little sections like this. Okay. And I know those are probably misproportioned right there, but yeah, you need an image of a human to kind of line it up with that image, or the snapshot of the bones and line it up with the bones and whatnot. Probably the bones would be better, to be honest. With that in mind, you do the same thing with the plate carrier. However, the Molly on the plate carrier is a little more interesting because you need some good reference photos of this from the front, maybe the side and the back, maybe even the top here for this little section. You do the same process, but the actual attachments for the Molly, you want to do separately. And then at the end, you're going to have to boolean them and combine them all together. So it becomes a little bit more problematic, all right? With that in mind, it's the same process. You create a plane. Oh, sorry, you don't have to create a plane. You take this image. A lot of times it's a good idea to not work on the images you brought in. You might need them for other things. So do duplicates, put them out there. But kind of the same process here. You would go through, you could knife tool this, right? And this one, I think I would knife tool all the way out to that edge, actually. And to keep it real simple, we're not going to focus on this little strap here at the top, but We might do something like this. And I probably made too many cuts. I don't know yet. And do this number. This shape, what I want to do, make sure we got it all lined up correctly, mostly correctly. I'm going to inset it. So press I, inset. I want to bring it into the plate area a little bit. I'm going to do a cut down and a cut down. Okay, this section, I'm going to, actually I need to do another cut here. A little bit, not much. I'm going to bring them in a little bit. Something like that. Okay, good enough. Let's get rid of all this extra. We don't need that. I would do the straps separately probably, but what I want to do is be able to bring all of this up like this. And you see if I bring it up right now, there's a little bit of depth to it, but there's no depth to this one down here, so I'm going to do another inset. And I'm going to press B so that it does this number. Just like that. Because in reality, I want to bring this up. Let's do a loop cut too, right here. Actually, I have a little bit of a problem with this one. Let's go through it. We're going to do cuts like this. What I'm trying to achieve is a little segment that just comes up like that, and see the texture pulls down on it too. Okay, that's what I was going for anyways. And so these plates, plate carriers anyways, I would join these little sections and try to get a decent little cut going down like this. They do have a little bit of roundness to them because there's padding in them. There's soft armor, usually Kevlar, and then there's actual plate itself, which could be ceramic or steel or whatever. So having a little bit of extra shape to it never hurt, right? Makes it look nicer. Okay, and then these side sections, let's go ahead and try. I want to G twice, move that in, G twice, move that in. Merge all by distance. I want this going on because this is going to create, oh, maybe I can't do it right now. I want to dissolve just that edge. Yeah, Blender has, I think it's a new bug. It used to not do that, but now it does. I try like a limit dissolve, sometimes it works. Yeah, limit dissolve works. I press X and then do limit dissolve, right? I should be able to do a loop cut now around this because we got the topology going in the right way. Should be able to, I don't know where. Okay, this isn't cut through. All right, so now that creates a loop cut like that. So I can just place it right in the center, I guess. And I can pull this whole section down a little bit and do a number like that. Okay. So I can build this plate carrier out in little segments, just like this, right? We're going to do this side piece real quick. You're going to spend more time on it probably, get carried away, which is normal, but keep it simple, really. Keep it as simple as possible. And we're going to do this number. I really want to put it right there because it does look like it comes up a little bit, but you can always slide these around. You can move them, use the correct face attributes. You can always kind of move them around later if you need to. I think I will on this one. We'll add one right in the middle. Okay, so, oh, wrong tool. I want to join these real quick. It's like so. I could do a loop cut in the middle. There we go. We can delete all this on the outside now. And this whole segment, I'm just going to inset it. I gotta press B to turn off that that thing again. I'm just going to inset all of this and do a loop cut here, another loop cut back here. Why not? This whole middle section. Just going to pull it up slightly. Build a key, view selected, makes it easy. This whole middle section. View selected there. Okay, pull it up. Just a little bit. I want a little depth to it. And then this other section here, pull up even a little bit more, I think. Something like that anyways. And then this should be curved all the way around, so we're going to use proportional edit. I'm just going to grab the center. Should have a slight curve to it, I think. So proportional edit, once you turn it on, which is that little icon there, you can use smooth or different fall-offs. Use your mouse wheel to change the size here. You do that number. So I'm going to go all the way across, and you can see I have correct face attributes on. Turn that off. You know, don't get carried away with that thing. Probably has a slight curve to it, I'm imagining. Maybe even more than that. But no, it's probably more like that. And then these ones here would probably have the most dramatic shape to it. So I'm going to leave proportional edit on. I'm just going to turn it really low. See what happens here. See, it's not bending real well, but more than likely, we'll turn it off now. More than likely, these come in quite dramatically like that. And you could try to rotate these. That might help out. And these could be brought in if they need to. Then once again, you got to line it all up and make it pretty. You know, you can't just. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Got to nudge it around. It's not going to be perfect. But it needs to match where it needs to on the skeleton of the character. And so you only need to do one of these, I think. You can mirror that texture over onto the other side if you don't plan on having like text or something on it. And so you can see how that's going now, right? All right, so let's go ahead and rotate this one 90 degrees. This is the front side. So that little buckle was on the front, I think. So we should be able to line them up. It should be very similar in proportion. But if you're not sure, the markings of the fabric, I think, will help you quite a bit. Kind of get it a little bit closer. You can see those straps there are a good indicator of scaling, right? So I might actually, I don't know. Is this the front or the back? I can't even tell now. This should be the front. So having those buckles right there would probably be pretty nice. It'd be nice to have the buckles on the front too, but you can see something like that. Want to duplicate it? Hit Control M and flip it over. Move it over here. You could also do a mirror across this. So do modifier mirror, pick object, this one. And it just happened to work off the bat there, but X. It might not line up quite the way you expect it to, though. I'm going to apply the mirror. This is one object, so I'm going to press L, E, separate. And then now I can work it back into position. So probably want to align everything as clean as possible for each little piece before you go on to this step, so you can get a nice symmetrical kind of thing going on here. But I'm just roughing it for this video. So these pieces, I'm going to join them together, and I'm going to select this one. So select this, hold shift, select this. We're going to do bool. There's another add-on comes with Blender. You got to enable it, which is Bool tool. You're going to do a union, okay? And there's a couple different options here. Just pay attention. Bool tool, we're doing auto Boolean union. The other one adds a modifier, but we're just doing it automatically. And so these need to be attached to each other. Machine Tools here has a really useful feature called Quick Cleanup. If I press Control, I have a shortcut for it that's custom, but Cleanup tool, you select everything, press Control 3, and you'll see that it sometimes cleans things up. Sometimes it doesn't know what to do, and that's okay, but in this case, it didn't know what to do. It didn't clean nothing up. Sometimes that might help you out. You try it, see if it works for you. And but you can see this didn't cut into each other, mostly because there's no back facing to anything. I thought it was going to actually do an intersect, which it kind of did. So we're going to have a little bit harder of a time cleaning this up, but there should be a face in here, maybe. No. Oh, okay. Guess not. Let's Control Z back real quick, since it's going to be that big of a pain. Should have did a little bit more than that. We might have to use a modifier. Nope, it's all one piece now. Never mind. I guess we're doing it manually. Fortunately, normally it gets it where it creates like a little cut between the two. You can just delete the back faces and stuff, but you want to be careful not to move anything. Just slide them if you can. And merge by distance. You can do dissolves as well. Generally that works out okay. You might have to use X-rays, so press Alt-Z. I don't even know if I mentioned that earlier in this video, but you probably have to do some cutting as well, so a little bit more cleanup of a process here. A little bit more of a cleanup process, you would. All right, so this back section you can see is just not really needed, I think. If I delete it now, it's going to delete this side too. It's a little gap in there. That's what's going on. It's probably why I didn't bool in well either. So you do want to have them actually intersect each other. Usually. I'm just going to knife it out. And then delete what's inside. Slide down. There it goes. Slide out. So now hopefully I'm opening up your mind to the idea of creating characters, because it's really not that difficult. It's just a lot of work that you don't know. You haven't seen anybody do this kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting to see what's going on after a while. It's not really that hard. Might have to cut this one down. There you go. Oh, it does not want to cut, that's for sure. This inside face, probably don't need it. So let's cut here down. A lot of manual work, right? Delete that inside face. Little gap there, we'll figure out later. This face here, I want cut like that, right? I don't need it. Be right there. You can use vertex snap and turn on correct face attributes. So options, correct face attributes, hold control, you can snap. A lot of times this actually works out pretty well. It's almost the same as sliding. Not always though, so be careful. And now we have some progress, finally. There we go. This whole section we could probably just slide forward. Yep. Not a big deal. Knife tool from here to there, there. We could keep those separate like that, or we could probably even just merge them up. Probably wouldn't hurt. You just did that number. Right. That's probably nothing wrong with that. So we're not going to go through cleaning up the rest of this plate carrier. We're not going to do this whole character, but I just wanted to open you up to the idea of what's going on here because it can be quite useful. Okay, just as we attached those little segments together for this, what eventually will happen is you'll do the coat, right? And you might want to just take a little extra second to make sure your proportions are correct. We're going to do a, I'm just going to do the regular incremental snap again. You might want to make sure your proportions are correct. Hold Control and Shift and snap it. Because if this was, say, like a, obviously this is way off, right? But if this was a soldier, odds are it's going to be somewhere around there. And you want to make sure you're getting these things just about right. Okay, so the plate carriers usually have a little bit of a taper towards the top. Just little minor details you need to think about. I'm going to turn that correct face attributes off so this doesn't get messed up. I could do this number, maybe rotate it a little bit. Oh, did it actually? Oh, look, when I moved it, I think when I moved it from over here, I had face attributes on. Oh no, I wasn't in edit mode. I don't know. Let's see if that moves, that little yellow tag. Oh, I guess can't move it now. We'll just move it back. Sometimes you can do things like that by accident, so. It looked wrong though. I don't know, maybe it was just me being a little cautious. I get kind of like paranoid when I do this, so. You can see something more like that. Maybe a little bit lower. These would be near the hip areas, kind of. Affects like the liver and stuff. All right. So you'll have to spend some time getting everything proportioned in just the right manner. But what you'll end up doing is you will build the pants, and then you'll do a jacket, combine those together, right? Make the shape of the character just right. You can do the head and attach it to the neck or whatever. Do the arms, the gloves, the boots, do a belt if you want. But every time you create something, you're going to do just like we did here. You're going to end up at some point, you can model a bunch of stuff like this ahead of time. So you know you'll have like a plate carrier ready. You'll have different plate carriers. You can do all the MOLLE attachments as well. But what you'll end up doing is you'll kind of place out those rough pieces like the boots, the pants, the shirt, and then you'll start bullying them all together like we did with this plate carrier. And then you have to go in and clean them all up. But you won't have to remake every little element, right? So you'll have all the different attachments you might want. You might have radios. You might have like little hand grenades that hang off of it or whatever. That's perfectly fine. Now here's the trick. When you do create pieces that would be attached to the MOLLE, it has to be boolean together and meet up and connect with the mesh. Okay, and you want to keep it as simple as possible because all of this model at some point, I'm just going to demo it real quick. Let's just combine these. Okay. Eventually you're going to have in max 5, you want to do this. You're going to have bones, right? Just going to scale this one down. And so you might have like something like this. Here's like a leg bone. Here's the hip bone, and then like the spine, right? Something like that. And so this mesh, I'm going to apply rotation and scale to it real quick, but Control P. So I select this one, then this one. That's active. So I press Control P, automatic weights, armature deform with automatic weights. Boom. Now I can go into pose mode on the bone. And if I rotate, it should be kind of ready to deform. Okay. So you need to make everything as clean as possible with quads. You want to make sure you do it right so that it can deform. Because if it doesn't deform correctly, what ends up happening is all your little attachments to your MOLLE, right? If you don't combine it together with this shape, what ends up happening is they'll move at different values, so it'll look like they're floating above the surface. So they have to be attached to it. They cannot be a separate object, um, or it won't work quite right. Now, Ghost Recon does allow you to create attachments for characters. That's for another video, but you could certainly try to create attachments there. It could be different types of helmets or whatever the case may be, but you can see that at some point, you're going to have your characters animate in the game, so they have to deform correctly, right? There's just no way around that. You can't change that fact. Now this is just a real simple rig, like simple bone structure, but you get the idea, right? It has to deform, and that is controlled by your topology. So use quads, keep it clean as possible. You'll find that occasionally you can use triangles. You can use triangles. Don't use n-gons, meaning a triangle with 3 edges, 3 vertices. N-gons, 5 edges or 5 vertices or more for a single face. Bad idea. You're better off trying to turn that into a quad or using a triangle, perhaps. So keep that in mind. And just take your time with it. It's a little bit more of an advanced subject, but really once you understand like the basics of animation, the principles of modeling anyways, keeping like this nice topology going so you have like nice little loops everywhere, it makes things a lot easier. As you can see, it's not so bad, right? Very predictable. You can tell what's going to happen and just, make it as simple as possible. It'll go into Ghost Recon a lot easier that way. I might make another video later on. I don't have a character fully ready right now to export out into GR, so I might do that one a little bit later. But just for now, hope you enjoyed the video and it helps you out quite a bit. Of course, this is inside Blender. There's other ways to do it in Maya or Max, pretty much the same way though. I've actually used to do this in Max. You probably could even pull this off in Max 5, so just keep that in mind. And I'll check you out in the next one. All right, take care.